Hey, I'm Jasmine Welk with Campus Reform, and today we're joined by the Georgia State Representative who just pre-filed the college campus free speech legislation. Representative Bonner joins us now to tell us all about the Forum Act. Welcome, Representative Bonner.
Well, thank you, Jasmine. I appreciate the opportunity to be here.
We're so excited to have you. So why don't you just start off walking us through what the goal of this bill is?
Sure. So the bill itself, we refer to it as the Campus Free Speech Bill because that's exactly what it seeks to do. There's three primary goals of this legislation. First, it's to end the free speech zones on our college campuses, um, to expand those to the entire campus, basically. So instead of saying that a student can exercise their First Amendment rights in this 4 foot by 4 foot square located behind the parking deck, this says that the entire campus is a free speech zone so that you can exercise those First Amendment rights wherever you choose. Secondly, it ends the speech codes by protecting what students can say. So it eliminates those speech codes that so many of our universities have throughout the state of Georgia that do impact and limit our First Amendment rights. And then thirdly, it protects the freedom of association that is crucial in our democracy, and allows students to associate with whomever they choose to associate with. And here in Georgia, we've had a number of cases, unfortunately, that have been filed over the last several years that have highlighted this need to have this legislation in place.
And can you tell us an exact instance of something that had inspired this bill?
Of course, we routinely get stories of students on various campuses throughout the state of Georgia that have their First Amendment rights curtailed. In one instance, this was at Georgia Tech, the Georgia Institute of Technology, which is located in Atlanta. We had a student group. It was a pro-life student group that had invited Alveda King, who is the niece of Dr. Martin Luther King. She is very pro-life and is active in that movement. That group invited her to come speak on campus, and she was denied by the student government. And so, unfortunately, there was a lawsuit filed, and the case was settled. But the university system, and by extension, the taxpayers of Georgia, had to pay out over $50,000 in damages for that one case. And we have cases like that almost every year, it seems like, where the rights of our students are somehow impacted by our university system.
And do you think we're seeing more of that recently, or has this always been a problem that we're just more aware of now?
I think we're seeing more and more instances of it, and of course, you certainly have the benefit of seeing what's happening on the national scene, and you could probably verify that. But here in Georgia, we have seen increasing instances of that, and frankly, it's on both sides. We had an instance in Georgia at a university here where there was a student that was a part of an environmental group who wanted to protest a new building that was going up on campus. And he was denied that right to peacefully protest that building. And so it's not just conservative, it's not just liberal, but it's in general kind of clamping down on free speech. And unfortunately, it's something that we've seen an increase in over the course of time.
Yeah. And do you anticipate any pushback on this bill?
We do. So we introduced this bill last legislative session, and it was assigned to the Higher Education Committee, which deals with the universities here in our state. And we got the bill out of committee, but during that committee process, the verbiage of the bill was changed to the degree that it really watered it down just significantly. And so we got it out of that committee, got it out of the Rules Committee, and it was ready to be voted on the House floor. And we decided to pull the bill because we did not want to run the risk of passing a very watered down version of what we really needed to do, which was to protect the students' First Amendment rights. And so the pushback came not only from the progressive left, but it also has come from the university system itself. And so, as you can imagine, the university system itself says, well, we don't have a problem. All of our students can exercise all of their rights at any time. And so we've got to push back on that. So we're almost fighting a two-front battle with the university system and then the progressive left that is all for free speech as long as it's their speech and as long as it's something that doesn't somehow in some way go against what they're trying to preach.
And do you think that there's anything that could be done for the university side to see the problem that has existed?
Well, so we're certainly making it a point to highlight the fact that this is not just an issue with conservative student groups on these campuses, and to highlight the fact that once you start curtailing rights, that's everybody's rights, and so we're trying to reach out to groups that traditionally protect rights regardless of on what side of the aisle they're on. But so far, they've been a little less than receptive to that. And frankly, I think it's just a part of the overall political climate right now is that, neither side is really willing to kind of come together for any single issue. Right now, we're very divided in that regard.
Yeah. And what would you say to someone who asked, why do you feel like this is important specifically right now?
Well, let's think about it. Our universities are traditionally that the one place, right, that where there's academic freedom, where I've got two kids in college right now, and I've got three more that'll be there at some point, and so I've got a vested interest to make sure that I send my kid to a place where they're going to be able to exercise all of their constitutional rights. And if they can't do it on a university, a place that is traditionally where you learn about those rights, then they're not going to be able to exercise those rights beyond that. So it's important that if they don't have a firm foundation by the time they get to the university level, that we need to instill in our students the fact that, look, you have rights that are enumerated in the Constitution, and it is the absolute charge and challenge of the government to protect those rights, regardless of where you are. But if you can't exercise those rights on a college campus, then there's something fundamentally wrong in our country.
Yeah. And aside from the bill that you pushed in the last legislative session, has anything like this been pushed in the state Senate in the past?
No. This is a fairly new effort, at least in my time in office. I've been in office for 4 years now, and this is the first specific to a college campus free speech bill that has been put forward. So I don't know that our state has a long history of that, but it is, like I said, it is an effort that's gaining steam.
Yeah. And I guess in closing, you said that the last bill that you tried to push in the last legislative session ended up becoming watered down, and you're trying to make sure that that doesn't happen. What would you say is non-negotiable?
So what happened in this last iteration of the bill is that during the committee process, ultimately the language was changed so that it gave the university system override to these speech codes, where it basically said that, okay, students can exercise these rights, and then it was unless the university, to the effect of the university system determines that they should not. So it basically negated all the language prior to it, right? And so it just became a challenge for us that we didn't want to have just a symbolic victory, which we certainly could have had. We wanted to have a substantive victory in making sure that our university system could not impose these arbitrary codes and regulations on our campus. So we've been working with some other groups, and we're certainly thrilled to be working with Campus Reform moving forward on this. But some of the other groups that we worked with, some of the Americans for Prosperity and Alliance Defending Freedom, some groups that are very active in the legal circles here. And essentially, we got to a point where the verbiage contained in the bill just was not gonna pass the requirement that we had. So for us, the non-negotiable is we do not want to give the university system any kind of override on these codes and in this free speech.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We love what you're doing, and we'll definitely be keeping posted with the latest in this bill.
Well, thank you so much, and I really appreciate everything you guys are doing. Again, as a legislator and as a parent, I'm glad that there are folks out there fighting for my kids and the students throughout the country. So thank you so much.